Hi everyone, this is Julianne Victoria. Welcome to my channel and welcome to the 2022 Year Ahead Vedic Astrology readings. So these readings will be looking at the planetary placements in the year ahead. So the planetary placements on January 1st, 2022 and how they relate to your chart. Of course, as usual, to get a more in-depth personal reading, a personal reading will be required. And I am opening up readings for year ahead readings, Vedic astrology, Western astrology, as well as some tarot reading options. And the link is below in the description box for that. Also, if you're interested in taking one of my online courses that I offer over on Teachable, those will only be available through the end of 2021. And those include the Journey Through the Nakshatras course and Shedding Light on Your Karma and Dharma. Those courses include PDFs and downloads. So if you're interested in those, you want to get them before they're not available anymore, check below, find the links. I'll pin them at the top of the comments as well so you can find them and see if it's something you're interested in. All right, let's get on to our year ahead readings. Hi Capricorn, welcome to your 2022 year ahead Vedic astrology reading. So let's start with your first house here. So this is a chart set up on January 1st, 2022. The time is adjusted to get Capricorn as the first house, so you can see how this might lay on your natal chart. So in your first house, we have your ruler, Saturn, and Mercury here. Saturn, of course, is very strong in his own sign of Capricorn. What I'm feeling here with your ruler in your first house, and he'll be here if you're curious through all of 2022 except for like a month-ish when he dips his toe into Aquarius. But having your ruler in your first house helps to give a strong sense of self. First house, house of the self, your personality, your identity, and your physical body and form. And Saturn rules the structure of the body, the bones, the sinews, tendons, and ligaments. So this gives, health-wise, more solidity to your already naturally solid structures, being Capricorns. But it gives a strong sense of self, establishing even more solidly who you are, as well as who you want to be. So for Capricorns who have been going through growth, depending on your age, where you are in life, this helps to solidify, you could say, the foundation of who you are. Now with Mercury here in your first house, Mercury represents the intellectual mind. I feel a lot of thought. I don't know how to phrase this. A lot of thought is going through Capricorn's minds into who they want to be and be seen as, which is an interesting way to phrase that, I think. I'm just feeling the energy here because this combination is very focused. Mercury and Saturn, very focused, very meticulous, getting to the details and looking at it all long term, and it's in your first house of self. So I feel a lot of Capricorns, not just at the start of 2022, but throughout the year, will be, for some, possibly scrutinizing yourself, because this can get a little nitpicky, but for the most part, really doing a lot of self-evaluation and thinking about it. And is this me? Is this how I want to express myself? Is this who I want to be? Is this part of my true personality? And really kind of analyzing it a lot. Just don't let it become over analyzing and then becoming harsh and strict on yourself. So keep that in mind, Capricorn, because this can get, depending on how this lays on your natal chart, like what planets are in your first house and all the drishtis going on, this can get, a little too self-scrutinizing. But on the healthier side, it can be a year of lots of sort of fine-tuning and understanding yourself and how you are seen by the world or the world around you. Okay. It does mean you're going to also be extra hardworking this year. I mean, you're naturally hardworking as Capricorns, but with Saturn, he's been here for the past year, so you've already been feeling this. You're going to be still very extra hardworking, even more so than naturally. And for some Capricorns with Mercury here, kind of isolated as a separate thing from the conjunction with Saturn, really into learning about things, not just yourself, but really wanting to like, oh, I want to learn about that and I'm going to be disciplined in studying it. I'm curious about that. So I could see some Capricorns also being interested in going back to school, as Mercury rules Virgo, which is your ninth house of higher education, wanting to go back to school or even self-study and really learning about things in a dedicated fashion. Okay. In your second house, Capricorn, sign of Aquarius, also ruled by your ruler Saturn, we have Jupiter. So Jupiter brings growth and expansion. He's the great benefic. And it's your second house of money, gains, finances, possessions. It's a material house. So Jupiter in the second is usually considered a great thing. He brings growth to your money, right? To your gains. Growth and gains, right? Finances. It could also increase your possessions, whether that's through you buying stuff or things being given to you, winning things, gifts, even inheritances. Sometimes the second house can be connected to the 10th house of career, but in general, gains from career is 11th, but there can be a connection there. But overall, most Capricorns are going to see an increase in their finances in some way or their possessions. And again, that can come through you spending money, which would be an increase in your finances, but an increase in your stuff, unless there's so much finances coming in that you can also increase your possession. So it's possible that both are increasing this year. But in general, Jupiter in the second is good for money and finances and the growth thereof, as well as investments. And I don't get the sense, like if Venus and Jupiter were here, then I might feel like you'd be spending more than what was coming in, so increasing your possessions, but not necessarily your finances. But I'm not feeling that. It feels for the most part that it's just an increase in finances or possessions or possibly both for Capricorns out there. So in general, a good year for finances. Moving down here to your fifth house. Fifth house is the house of creativity, whether you're an artist or just anything you create in general, including like your own business, entrepreneurship. It's a house of children, because those are things we create, education through high school, and romance or dating. So your fifth house is Taurus, as I'm sure you know, and we have Rahu, motivation, ambition, karmic action that is going to go into play or that you'll be motivated to put into action in this year. So for those Capricorns who are creative, are in a creative field, or you have a creative side business and you have or want to build, you have the motivation, drive, and ambition to take action to do that. So it is good for small business and creatives, including artists. And it is, of course, very creative Taurus energy here. For those Capricorns who want to have children or who work with children or even teach small children, again, there's more motivation and drive, and I want to say spark, excitement for that. And I feel that's especially for Capricorn teachers who maybe have had to teach a lot online or distance. It's sort of like the spark is coming back for that. And then when it comes to romance, dating life, Capricorns who are single and maybe in the past, well, Rahu's been here for a while, but couple years past and so on, that desire to date was low, or, lock bit downs and stuff. You haven't been able to do it. Again, the energy is there to get out and meet people and date. This doesn't mean it's a lot. And I actually want to say, in combination, because Rahu does have a drishti here on the first house, in combination with what's going on here when it comes to romance and dating life, you're going to be motivated to be pickier, which is, I feel, what you need to be. Be pickier, be choosier, not in a standoffish kind of sort of way, but it's more in the sense that you're just not going to tolerate stuff that isn't what you're looking for, basically. Okay. When it comes over here in your 11th house, so 11th house is the gains from career. and as well as your social house, networking, friends, acquaintances. We have Mars here in his own sign of Scorpio. So when it comes to gains from career, that brings a lot of fiery, passionate energy to really bring in those gains, right? And I do want to say, especially for Capricorns who are creative, because Venus, creativity, rules both your 10th house and this 5th house of creativity, right? So especially Capricorns who are creative in their work or have a side business that they're creating. It doesn't have to be in the creative fields, but that you're creating and growing, because the business itself is a creation. I feel lots of energy there to bring in the gains from your work, from your career. When it comes to social life, this can definitely like bring in more social activity. Mars is also conflict, so it could bring in conflict as well. But I feel more as drive to connect to people. It's a deep sign of Scorpio, right? In a way that is interesting. So I kind of want another way to say that is that there's even less desire to socialize and network with people who are boring to you. And that's also reflective of some of this, evaluation of the self and how you're seen by others and so on. Now we also have Ketu here, so it's part of this karmic axis of Rahu and Ketu, or the nodal axis. Ketu here as the year begins. When it comes to income, you don't want what was in the past. You want to take off with more. So that's part of that energy. I also sense, because I've gotten this for quite a few of the signs, like learning from the past. So in this sense, in like what you've done, how you've worked, maybe where you've worked, what career field you've been in, learning from that and how it has played out, affected, impacted your gains from your career, your income, the benefits, or even the network you've gained, learning from that, and out of that, finding new passion and motivation to help your career take off. I mean, 11th house is also a house of ambition, to help your ambitions in your career take off, to help the network grow in the way you want it, the business connections, the work connections, and also in your social life, the friends that you connect with, learning from how it has been in the past and bringing in the energy to make it how you want this year and into the future. And of course, some of that with social life obviously can be because of the pandemic, and maybe you were separated out a lot before. But I do feel here is like also separating out from, those are the groups I'm not interested in. Again, like, that's boring, not to sound harsh, but it's kind of the energy I get. And this is what I'm motivated and excited and passionate about doing, whether it comes to like social gatherings or groups you're part of, network, but then also a lot of fiery energy to grow your career gains. Okay, I feel like that was a lot I was trying to put together there. Now I want to talk about the moon. So at the time, 8 a.m. on January 1st, to pull up your Capricorn chart, the moon has moved into Mula. But at midnight on January 1st, the moon is actually here in Scorpio, in Jeshta, as is Mars, the nakshatra of Jeshta. So I'm going to read the moon energy here. I'm going to actually read both, because I find it interesting that it shifts on the 1st. And of course, the new moon is actually on January 2nd. It's approaching the new moon. So extra new energy for the new year. But with the moon here at midnight on January 1st in your 11th house, it's also, I feel like it's suggestive and suggested reflective energy and reflection energy that you're already going to be doing naturally. Is how do you feel about the people you socialize, the groups you socialize with, how you socialize, online, in person, reflecting on the past and past groups of friends and people and business network, etc. a lot of reflecting upon that. And from that reflection, as well as all this analyzing energy in the first house, deciding, those people are of the past, or I'm not interested in that activity. I don't want to hang out with that group of people anymore. This is really what I want to do. So it brings in a lot of reflection energy. And then moon here also is like wanting to connect with people that you also have an emotional connection with, whether that's your social friends groups or your work, career, entrepreneurial connections. Like, do you feel similarly about things? Do you connect to the individual when it comes to like business networks? Do you connect to the person, or is it purely superficial? These are things you're going to be reflecting upon and basing your decisions, and also that guide your fiery passion and motivation. Again, for where your career wants to go, where your social life wants to go, etc. Now, your 12th house, the sign of Sagittarius, this is where the moon moves to during the day of the 1st. So it shows up in this chart here. And it's the 12th house of your psyche, moksha, liberation, yoga, meditation, the collective unconscious, also spiritual seeking. So I kind of feel like, because the moon changes sign this day, that there's a transitional energy sometime in the year for you, not necessarily on the 1st, where you go deeper within yourself to understand who you are on the psychic, and or spiritual level. So the moon is conjoined the sun here, as you can see, as well as Venus. Again, I said, the new moon's on the 2nd, so we're almost a new moon, entering into that new moon phase on the 1st of the year. The sun represents your soul, the eternal part of you. And you can kind of see like the moon also representing the psyche, not just your emotional self and your emotions in this 12th house. There is a lot of, I guess I'll say, soul-seeking energy, but I also want to say getting to your soul's deeper layers in 2022. So even though like what's going on in the 1st house is a lot of, analyzing, evaluating, etc., kind of more mental energy, you're not without deep emotional stuff going on in the year. Other people just might not be aware of it, because I think you might keep it quite private with this energy in the 12th house. And it may be that, you start up yoga or meditation or other spiritual practice, or you take your current yoga, meditation, or spiritual practice to an even deeper level, or even a more psychological level, or you start going to therapy, or you go into hypnotherapy, etc. It's a deepening, getting to those deeper layers of yourself. And I feel like it's going to be quite enlightening. It doesn't feel heavy or depressive. And especially, or also, because we have Venus here. Venus is retrograde, so it internalizes her energy, the creative energy, or Shukra, his energy. And that, like, I want to say, like, what you find in those deeper layers, not that it will all be perfect, but you'll find beauty in it. So even the difficult things you find in those layers, you're going to find the beauty in it because of this deepening of this discovery of yourself and your spiritual practice, this deepening of your spiritual practice. I hope that makes sense. Okay, that covers the planetary placements for you as we begin this year of 2022. Wishing you a wonderful year ahead, Capricorn. Again, the links for anything relative is down below in the description box, and have a wonderful new year.